Good evening. Welcome to Strange Basin. First time we've come across on video, and I'm excited about it. It's an evening. It's kind of dark. We're here in the Strange Basin underground, secret bunker in the greenhouse, and I've got a special guest for you tonight, Geo Baja. He's been doing a lot of investigations around, and I met him at Sonomicon. Quite a character, this one. He is very familiar with the sister to Skinwalker Ranch. Down there, it's called Mount Wilson's Ranch, and he's been there. He's done some amazing investigations. So let's bring him to you right now. Gio, welcome to it.
Hey, how you doing there, Arnie? It's good to be here, man.
I'm excited. This is the first time we're doing video, and you're the guy
Yeah,
to help me work through this a little bit.
I'm glad it's all up and running.
Man, you got quite a few YouTube videos out and done some amazing investigations I've seen.
Thanks, Arnie. Yeah, thank you. Just
Man,
kind of trying to get as much as I can to kind of put, the state of Nevada kind of back on the map when it comes to paranormal. There was a magazine that kind of said that there wasn't anything that happened in Nevada, and it made me laugh. So I was like, oh,
right,
okay, I could probably change that.
right. Yeah, whereas I live in kind of the hot spot of the world right now.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is kind of all normal to us here, for the last 30 years or so. Oh, yeah, it's just the little people over there in the bushes. Don't whistle at night, those kind of fun things.
Yeah, I'm learning.
You're learning.
I'm learning. There's a lot of techniques that I would use, in my own investigations, but when you go out to the strange basin, as they like to call it, there's some things you might not want to do because it might get a response that you might not be ready for. Let's just say that.
Right. You told me the other day you actually did whistle at night.
I did. Yeah, I did. I did. Kind of
Rookie
freaked out.
move.
Yeah, I freaked out the other investigators and got kind of scolded about it and educated on why not to do that.
Well, help us
Luckily,
out. Why you tell us what you've learned now.
well, I mean, when it comes to locations, especially like the Strange Basin, where you're dealing with cryptics that are very hidden and are very mischievous, whistling is something that can provoke them. And even further looking into it, there's even lores of different type of creatures. You got the little ones too that whistling is not really something that they take very kindly towards. In my investigation, once I did do a whistle, I did capture some growls coming back at me. And the other investigator that was with me, a detective from Tennessee, him and his son were pretty spooked out about it too. Now realizing us as a group, it's not really something you want to do, because maybe do it by yourself and that's on you. But if
Well, at the end of
someone
one of
were,
your videos, you're also saying, "Go ahead and touch me. It's fine. It's fine." So, I mean, go ahead. It's up to you, man.
I do that. I do have a really strong faith system. And some of that, I kind of feel protective over other people, especially when they're new to this phenomenon. I would rather it come my way because I've kind of have experience with some of these entities that they don't. And my biggest concern now is them to have an experience that changes them for the worse, and
Right.
then I'm
And I did
part of the
appreciate that what you did. You said, "Hey, don't touch people that are with me or are not saying it's okay, but I'm telling you it's okay." So, man, good on you.
Yeah, and it could be dumb. I know my mom will be very upset that I'm doing stuff like that,
Moms
and
usually are, though.
yeah, my wife too included. And my wife, we're opposites. My wife is somebody who's never experienced anything her entire life. Didn't even know that this kind of stuff was even real until we got married. And I pre-warned her. I told her, she told me, "Oh, I want to have a normal life." And I laughed. So I was like, well, unfortunately, I'm not normal, not even in the slightest. And so if you're going to marry me, you have to understand I do come with some
Right.
very unusual stuff. And
I
yeah,
told
now
my
she's
partner, I says, "Hey, I've got luggage to put my baggage in."
yeah, she realized now that, I wasn't playing. And she at the time, like most people, when you say stuff like that, they just, "Oh, okay, sure, yeah, whatever." But then she quickly was, you know, had her own experiences, several of them now.
Oh, excellent. Going back to the whistling, I did spend a month in Russia, and the family that was hosting us, I never realized how much I whistle. There, it's very much bad luck to whistle indoors.
Oh, wow.
And so I've pretty well quit whistling now.
Oh, wow.
I just sing. Sing all the time.
There you go. Yeah, I wonder where whistling even started. I wonder what the origin of whistling came from, if it was like a form of communication, if it was a tribal thing of how tribes were able to distinguish, the different groups. Um, Something that I kind of feel like I'm probably gonna start looking into. Where does that all begin? And, one thing I also noticed too is, like, whistling, I think eventually went into whistle or, to flutes. I think, you know, my family's from, Guatemala and Costa Rica, and I've been to Guatemala, and, the guys are always selling these flutes, and you'll see, like, pictures or artwork and sculptures of, like, Mayans holding a similar type of device that they would also play through. Now it makes me
That's a
curious.
great link there that you're going to. There is also when you get into flute music, it becomes very um, spiritual. Good way to communicate with the other side and the spirit side, and speak to the ancestors. And if we aren't careful, not knowing what you're playing with, that's kind of where we're at. We're trying to relearn the things that we've known.
Yeah, it's sometimes I kinda put kick myself in the butt, let's just say, because I'll go out to, as we said, I'll go out to some of these locations and just whistling like crazy, and one of the investigators that I go with a lot, he knows that I do sometimes get a reaction, and he loves it because he's, someone who's kinda new to the phenomenon and just wants to, have that interaction more and more, but I'm starting to realize it's like, you gotta start to realize what kind of thing you're calling out to,
Right.
and should you be calling out to it.
Exactly. So beware, everybody. There's a little bit of history and theory on whistling. Hey,
Yeah, that's definitely a rabbit hole and a deep dive for anyone who wants to
right.
look into that.
And very interested if people do know more. I'd love to hear about it. The reason I really brought you in is there's not a lot of information on Mount Wilson's Ranch and the things that are going on there, and I'm so curious as to the ties to Skinwalker Ranch. And so rather than me deep diving it and figuring it all out on my own, and then writing little stories like I do, and talking about it on the radio, I always like to bring in the people who've been there, people who've experienced it, and that turned out to be you, man. So let's talk about Mount Wilson's Ranch.
Yeah, Mount Wilson's Ranch was something that kinda came into my radar, particularly in 2017. Washington Post did an article on the Tic Tac incident off the water of the shores of San Diego, with the Nimitz air carrier, and Colonel Frazier was a pilot who had this interaction with this Tic Tac. And in that article, it talked about Robert Bigelow and a program called NIDS, National
The two names I know
Investigation.
very well here.
Yeah, yeah, and that was the thing, Robert Bigelow got money from the Pentagon and to study, without their knowledge, from what I've read, to study the phenomenon. And 2 ranches he purchased. As a scientist or as someone who does science, you wanna have, 2 things so you could kinda compare them with each other. That way you could basically see if, like, okay, this is happening over here. If I could do the same kind of study, will it also have the same kind of reaction at the other ranch,
Was he
since they're very
doing
similar?
studies it simultaneously, or
Yes, they were both ranches. He had a group out in Utah and he had a group out in Mount Wilson. He had brought people like Eric Davis, Jack Filet, Kit Green, people that are very tied into the esoteric and the other side of the government when it came to deep knowledge of this type of weird phenomenon Jack Fillet is also the person who created the internet with, I believe, with the CIA, but also with NASA. And it was originally for the Mars rover programs, but then eventually turned into the internet. That's who Jack Fillet is.
So like the father of eyes.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. And
I love the
the
everything's true.
right, yeah, I mean, and even the TV show Stranger Things. You know, when the Montauk program, when you look into the background of the writers who wrote that, they have come out to say that that story came actually from a book about the Montauk program that was based out in New Jersey.
Oh,
But
geez. Now you're getting way off left center, but I'm
I
interested.
know. Right. Well, the reason I'm talking about that is apparently they were taking some of the test subjects out to Mount Wilson.
Really?
Because Mount Wilson, like we were kind of talking about before, Mount Wilson and just like Strange Basin area, those ranches will interact with your subconsciousness. And so if you're somebody who's a little bit more open, it's almost as if you go to those locations and they'll start opening up more doors for you. Since going out to
I'm
Mount
nodding.
Wilson,
I've experienced that. Yes.
yeah,
Ray Willis, he was on the show who
oh,
had
okay.
who has a ranch right next to Space Wolf Research and Skinwalker proper. He has a philosophy, and I really loved it. Is go out there and play with them, see what happens. And I really
Yeah,
love that theory. And I've told the story on my show about how I played guitar and the frogs sang melody with me. They were
that's
singing
right.
Johnny Cash right along with me, not rhythm. They were singing the melody, and so Ray was right, man. If you play with these and have the right intention, they will match that. And what an experience that was for me. So dead on, man. Keep going.
Yeah, one of the really weird thing about those ranches too is there's a phenomenon called the hitchhiker effect. I don't know if you're aware of this. It's where
We're not
you
talking
go
about Travis's band, right?
no, 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 no. It's a weird phenomenon where these things will go home with you. And you'll have an interaction at your home. Um, That has happened for me. I've had, poltergeist activity at my house where things were literally moving on their own. That's something that some people, when they hear that, they get a little freaked out and they'll be like, "Oh, I'll never go." I'll
Yeah,
just
but
say for
you're
me
also saying, come on, push me, hit me. Yeah, and I'll whistle
that's r
too. No problem.
that's true, that's
Yeah.
true,
And
that's
I'm
true.
talking more like, let's just play songs together, man. Yeah. I'm an old hippie. What can I say?
Yeah. No, that's probably the best way to be about it, in my opinion.
But I'm also very warded. So
Yeah. Yeah, I think for me, luckily, my intent always going to those locations is I introduce myself every time I go to those locations. Right when I step onto the soil, I introduce myself, my intent, and my intent is always just to be there to experience the phenomenon and to receive whatever gifts they're willing to give me. And I'm also giving gifts back. Mount Wilson, I've actually planted cucumber seeds. I've done a version of it's a Native American, dance that they did in the early 1900s that eventually actually led into a massacre in South Dakota.
mm.
uh, a ghost dance, I think it's called. I did a rendition of that in the shaman cave, trying to give respect back because the original ghost dance was actually about trying to go back to live with the land and try to understand that we should all respect each other no matter what culture, what background you come from. The goal is for all of us to come as a community and to live again back with Mother Earth and learn how to not take advantage of it and try and just take. It's actually about living in harmony back with it. So when I came home and I have several type of things happen in my home now. It's always been like uh in a positive light, I'll say. I've had giggles. It sounds like children running up and down my stairs. I've had, like I said, lamps moving on their own, balancing, and then going right back to their normal position. Nothing has ever been, to the point where, thank God, where my wife will tell me, "Don't ever go back out again," because, like I said, she's someone who is just new to this, and here her husband is going out and bringing these things back. So, luckily, everything has been very positive. But back to Mount Wilson.
Beat me to it. I was like, wait, we're
Yeah.
learning the Mount Wilson.
Yeah, Mount Wilson's Ranch. So it was a location that Robert Bigelow knew, and there's a lot of stories that you could research about Mount Wilson that had a lot of all these experiences, cryptics, ghosts, entities.
So am I wrong? Is there not a lot of information, or is there a lot of information out there about it?
There is.
I guess I'm just too narrow focused on the Strange Basin and my work here.
Well, and that does happen sometimes, and that's okay. I mean, it does happen when you have to dig. I will say that. You will
Okay.
have to dig when it comes to Mount Wilson, because I wanna say because of the attention that the location in Utah has had, a lot more of the stories about that region are now surfacing, but for some reason, Mount Wilson has always kind of remained this little secret.
I didn't know till I knew that Bigelow was even a part of it. So
Yeah, and
I think I'd heard somewhere that Howard Hughes owned it at one time, or something like that.
yes, yeah, there's even, a runway, an old
Oh,
runway. Yeah, and I could tell you a story about Howard Hughes and his secretary, about them going to Mount Wilson. We'll go back to that, but yes, Howard Hughes. There's even some stories that Robert Bigelow might actually be related to, uh, uh I think it's either Tesla or Hughes. It might be his bastard child, and that's where all the money from Robert Bigelow comes from,
oh,
and
gee.
yeah, but when you go to the ranch, like I said, there's a saloon that dates back to the late early 1900s that came from New York area, New Jersey, came around South America because this is before the Panama Canal, went to San Francisco, and then by a wagon came from San Francisco over to Pioche, Nevada, where Mount Wilson's ranch is, and it's immaculate. So someone of great wealth had paid to had brought that over.
Wow.
But once the ranches, because I guess they were sold a week apart. Robert Bigelow sold the property up in Utah first, and then a week later, he sold the property in Nevada. And
Any
it's
theory why he just said I'm out?
yes, and this comes from Jeff, the owner, who I'm learn Jeff is like an onion. The more and more you go, the more stories he'll start to reveal about himself and the connection with him and Robert Bigelow. Because I always wondered, like, why did Jeff buy this property? Like, how did he even know about this property? And the more and more you find out, apparently Robert Bigelow sold it to Jeff and actually helped him finance it.
Oh, wow.
Jeff used to work for Robert Bigelow, tinting government vehicles that were used at the test range site. So they had known each other for a little bit, and because Robert Bigelow, and I feel like I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna say it no matter what. Robert Bigelow still goes there.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and he has a different approach. He brings in witches, and they do seances, and they do other form of measures to try to provoke the phenomenon. Um, and one of the reasons why I was told that he sold it was there's a chief shaman that's on Mount Wilson's Ranch that seems to be
Full
the
time.
it has to be provoked. It's a chief shaman that seems to know if your intent is to do something wrong towards the ranch, the chief will show itself and will pretty much shoot you off. And that happened to Robert Bigelow.
Huh.
He had an experience, they call it the shaman room. And now when I talk to Jeff, it didn't happen in that room, but that room is where the shaman does kind of show himself a lot more often. But in the same bungalow rows, Robert Bigelow had an experience where he was woken up by the chief shaman and was very sternly told to leave and
Wow.
never come back.
So do you think that's why he sold the ranches and says, I'm gonna go into obscurity now?
That was kind of the story and around that time, I think Robert Bigelow was also doing the news circuit talking about the phenomenon and talking about non-human intelligence and even very, very sternly saying aliens are here and I don't believe I know and I don't care what you think because I know what I know. And it's okay for you to not want to believe that, but you'll never change my belief because I know. Shortly after that, it seems like he lost his contracts dealing with NASA. The government program NID stopped. And I think those contracts were given to either Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk with SpaceX. So
Could be.
it's the original story that Jeff was kind of even told was Robert Bigelow was actually trying to get some of the material from Lockheed Martin and maybe even the bodies, and that he was
The bodies from where?
from a crash.
Just a crash.
Well, I believe it's one particular crash that happened, I think, in New Mexico. And the only reason why Jeff, who told me this side of it, believes this is when he moved to the ranch, he had to do some electrical stuff on the ranch. And one of the electricians who apparently had been out there back when Robert Bigelow was there asked him, "Oh, are the freezers still here?" And Jeff's like, "Freezers?" He goes, "Oh, yeah." He goes, "We had to hook up like really powerful generators that were going to power 3 very large freezers to hold." He didn't say what, but he's like, to hold something to keep it like cryogenic freezers, like
Uh,
very, very
free-
hot, deep free. Yeah,
uh,
exactly. And Jeff just kind of brushed it off as just another story of him being told things by people who had been to that ranch. So
sure, because I
that
deal with
was
that all the time. Just what's your story, and then I hear 5 different versions of the same bit of folklore that, and then clean out little bits of truth and then little bits of all right, well that could happen. Like maybe.
yeah, apparently the ranch was going to be a holding site for the material and the bodies, and that there's even evidence that he brought out a huge excavator and was trying to dig up something similar to what has happened was still happening over at Skinwalker Ranch. There seems to be something buried in the mesa in Skinwalker, and there's something buried in the lower, they call it the lower homestead. There's a homestead that dates similar to Skinwalker Ranch. There's a homestead that dates back to the early 1900s that's still there. And right in front of it, they believe is there's something buried there. Jeff has had scans done by a very, very advanced company and has told him that there is definitely something buried there. It seems to be in the shape of a manta ray, a very large, like a manta ray fish. But
Right.
imagine one like hundreds of feet long, buried right in that area. And there seems to be, I don't know if you know about the Air Force base called HARP that's based up in Alaska.
Yep.
So it uses static electricity to shoot up into the ionosphere. And
Kind
the
of some scary
theory,
stuff of what that could happen with what they're doing up there.
right? I mean, it could provoke a lot of weather modifications and even earthquakes, apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently, something like that is on top of the manta ray. The theory is that the manta ray craft was emitting some sort of frequency that would interact with human beings, and they placed this on top of it to basically control that frequency and
Interesting.
and keep it moderate, I would say.
Just a quick question though. Is it
Yes.
2.4 gigahertz? Like,
Right? Or 1.6 apparently. 1.6 is a really interesting number apparently to both areas.
that's
It
my
was
Omaha
funny.
out there.
Well, no, it's the that those frequencies. I asked a question. Try not to well at Phenomicon to Dr. Travis Taylor that had to do with that.
That was a good impression. You went right to who I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I picked up on it. Like I said, I watched the show, so
Yeah.
I'm aware of the accent and I'm aware of Dr. Travis Taylor. I don't, I don't want to say anything bad about the guy or that's not even how I feel about him, but
No, he's
I did
doing the
ask,
work, man.
he's doing the work. He's
He's
doing the
doing the
work.
work.
But I did ask him a question that seemed to not get it seems like he sidetracked the question because I basically asked him about psionic assets and the dog whistle. The dog whistle is the frequency that we are just talking about. And he went into remote viewing.
Interesting.
That has nothing to do with the dog whistle or psionic assets.
They might have get a little kernel though there.
Yeah, I stepped away from the mic. Like, I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you were there when I asked this. I
I
stepped
was
away from the
there.
mic. I kind of like I asked it, and I was like, I'm not even going to further this conversation because I even felt like I feel like that's something that the public they don't want the public to yet know more about. Because then if they did, I think you would probably get into Jack Barber and the company that he was working with, and one of the other whistleblowers that's coming forward that now apparently has contract with the Department of Defense. So it does open up a subject that I think is very sensitive, and I think Dr. Travis Taylor sidetracked it on purpose.
Right. I agree with that. And also maybe threw you a little kernel. So there's their first parallel between the ranches is Bigelow. That's huge.
Yep.
And Nids. Our second would be a buried something underneath it. That's now we're getting somewhere.
Yep.
What's
Yeah, I mean, and the other thing we talked about was, I mean, just the land, the water. There's water running underneath both ranches.
right?
There was that crystal mineral that we were talking about. You
Quartz.
said it. Quartz. Thank you.
Quartz.
I don't know, my brain gets foggy. There's quartz crystal all over, all over the both areas. Um, Native Americans, the ranch. I believe there's a circle. There's a circle at uh out in the Strange Basin where there was an episode where they even brought Native Americans out to do a chant, and it caused an interaction with the phenomenon, we'll call it.
There's a lot
Same
to the
thing.
sound. You're a sound engineer. I'm a musician. There's a
Yep.
lot to sound and the power of sound.
Mount Wilson's ranch has a lot of Paiute pottery. All over, scattered everywhere. And he's even found, I think they carbon dated it to be 3,000 years old, 5,000 years old. They're large volcanic rock knives that are like this big. Um, I have photos of it. I'll find them and I'll send them to you.
Okay.
um, they're large, and uh, one of them was gifted to Jeff uh, by someone who used to live on the ranch, and then later, just like how I talked about how the ranch seems to interact with you, just shortly after Jeff goes out for a walk and finds another
Well, here's
ident.
you just mentioned it, but I don't know if you knew how much you tied into the area up here, but the Paiute band is one of the tribes that was consolidated, forced to the Uintah Basin to a very shrinking reservation, and branded just as Utes. And so we've got a lot
Oh,
of
wow.
history that way of all these different bands of natives that were put together and forced to live amongst each other all the way from Nevada into Colorado.
Wow.
And now we just call them the Utes, and it's an unfortunate situation that,
Wow.
and very much a part of our history that I think plays into so much of the high ranges that we talk about all the time here.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I s
there's your number three, and I don't know if you did it
wow.
on purpose, but yeah, Paiute.
I didn't. No, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Wow. Yeah, there's a trying to remember the doll that there's this entity that the Native Americans believe in that's like a protector of the Native American people. Um, Kachina dolls? Kachina?
That would be Hopi.
Uh, Hopi. Okay, so Hopi. Um, the Kachina, is also something that is found at Mount Wilson.
Oh wow.
Um, one of the early residents in the I wanna say mid to early 1900s that, lived on the ranch would make kachina dolls and paint kachina dolls everywhere, all over the ranch, and when I started digging into the Hopi thank you, and the kachina dolls and because I would see them at Mount Wilson, so I was curious, "What is this?" That, from what I researched, was a supernatural entity that's able to travel between our space and their space and is a protector from the negative side. And it there's a story about how in the future the land will be given back to the Native Americans, all this land. And the things that are buried underground are actually for them to rebuild their kingdom back on this land. And that's why whenever if you're not Native American, and if the timing's not right, and you're not from that blood, you will have a negative reaction if you get too close when you start digging. Similar things that have happened at the Strange Basin whenever digging and mining happens at Mount Wilson, people get hurt. Just recently, I did get permission to talk about this. Jeff, the owner, has gotten hurt.
Oh boy.
And, I do this because I feel like he's blessed to be here still because he fell headfirst on a very sharp object that just cut and nicked his head. If he had fell straight on it, it would have killed him.
Oh boy.
And oddly enough, it healed very quickly and you can't even see the mark. But when he showed me the photos, I mean, blood gushing, it was bad. It was a really bad hit. And he actually stopped. He's no longer digging like he was in the past. He stopped altogether.
See, and I know from experience, it's real easy to sit back there and watch us talking about this and say, "Oh no, I'd dig it. I'd keep digging." And I mean, I'm an old treasure hunter, and I've got places I won't go back to, and I'm pretty sure there's an old cache of something in there, and feel very strongly, and won't go back. And that's a property that I can access, like that
Yeah,
isn't owned by somebody else or another nation. It just when you get in that experience, you really do find that space of this is not for me. This is
yeah,
not. And sometimes I feel
yeah,
about even just talking about these and bringing it out to the world the way we're doing.
yeah,
It can be tough. It can be real
yeah,
tough. Hit that and realize this isn't for me, or this isn't something I should be doing. To me, that's a
yeah. For Jeff, so Jeff got information that there's an elevator chute, and I could tell you, this is where I could tell you the little story about Howard Hughes, because Howard Hughes' secretary has a story and experience and about flying with Howard Hughes to the middle of the desert from Vegas, and they land at a very uh uh a flight path, dirt, gravel that was kind of just built very quickly. That Mount Wilson, you can see it still there.
Oh wow.
And she talks about getting out into a Jeep, driving up to building, a cement building that had a really scary elevator that they got into, and the elevator went really far down. And when the elevator doors opened, they walked out to what looked to be like a city. And there were people sitting at a table with umbrellas having lunch. And it was very vast and very large and very beautiful. She described it.
Huh.
Jeff has some evidence of rail carts, large, a huge power source that could have powered an elevator chute, and has even pulled up. It's the weirdest thing, and it's in one of my videos. It looks like a lamp, a street lamp from London, made of
Really?
like cement with very beautiful like bulbs on it. And you're like, what is this doing out here? Like this doesn't
All the time when I'm hiking around here, but this doesn't live here. This doesn't go here. This doesn't belong here. That kind
right. And so Jeff, that was his focus, was to dig into that elevator chute to get to it. And during that process is when something happened to him. And that's why he stopped. And for me as an investigator, just like we're just describing, I was telling him, the second you get that chute open, I'm going. Like, let me know. I'll like if you're scared of
only three
going down,
and a
I'll
half
go
hours
down
away, man.
first.
Oh,
I'm only 3 hours away. Yeah, I'll cancel everything. I'll go out there. And but now that that has happened to him, and he told me, he goes, "I'm taking a break." He goes, "I don't know if I'm gonna continue digging." And, I even told him, I was like, "Hey, um, this is by far, this is your ranch, and so whatever you feel best, I 100%, I support you, and if you say that's it, then that's it. That's I understand. I
and
wouldn't
it's a
press it
lot
any
more
further."
than just falling down and cutting his head open. There's a lot more to that story. I guarantee you. I have them.
Yeah, so there have been people who have told him that you need to wear a chem suit, that it's very dangerous down there. Jeff has actually have had calls with government officials telling him, "We know you're digging. Whatever you find belongs to us." Jeff has he has a mining claim. And so he has even, fought him back and tried to get lawyers involved. And the lawyers even told them that they have a contract with the government that goes even further back past your mining claim.
Oh,
And all of a sudden, Jeff said that after those phone calls in the middle of the night, late at night, it felt like the whole mountain was shaking. And in his mind, we would talk about it, it seems as though they might have went back in under and probably pulled whatever was left. And because he heard them, and it literally felt like he said like the whole mountain was shaking and things were just vibrating and moving right below his feet.
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's more than one way in.
yeah,
There have to.
yeah. There has to be. Yeah, there has to be. So for me, when I first went to that ranch, and I guess we could talk about the black eyed child if you'd like.
Oh, I'm up for it.
Jeff, prior to this investigation, I like to ask people, what is something that you want to help you capture? What is something that you want me to get evidence for? And he told me there's a child here. And the story about the child is that there was a Native American that would play with the child that would later turn into one of the little grays. And
Like a gray alien?
yeah,
Okay.
but I didn't know that part of it. Oh, remember I think I was telling you earlier, whenever I ask people this, I always stop them, "Don't tell me the story." Like, I don't wanna know the story. I just wanna just that's what you want me to find? Okay, good. Tell me the story later about it. Tell me the description, everything. That way, if I present it to you, you could say, "Oh, that is what I was told she looks like." We're in the middle of the investigation late at night. I use a REM pod. It's very famous. A lot of ghost investigators, they use REM pods. Um, in my opinion, I feel like REM pod is just like a way to kind of get uh people who are the audience watching to see that, like, things can interact with objects sometimes. Um, I have seen very, very odd things happen to my REM pod that I can't explain. But the REM pods were kind of going a little berserk. I have a Spirit Talker app that I use on a phone that's broken. It actually remains off whenever I come back home. I shut it off. It stays off. It has no SIM card. And the reason I'm saying all this is because a lot of people will say, "Oh, okay, Spirit Talker app, that doesn't work." But I've had my
I'm one of those actually. So yeah, convince
yeah,
me.
I've had my Spirit Talker app. I one of the investigations, well, at Skinwalker Ranch, I handed the device to some twins. They're these podcasters. I think it's called
Not
Strange
Skinwalker Ranch.
Station.
You're talking about when you came to the Space Wolf Research.
Yes, thank you. Space Wolf Research. Thank you. Space Wolf Research. I was with a paranormal group called Strange Station Podcast, and they're
Well, that's
twins.
awfully weird. It's a real
Yeah,
strange
yeah.
station.
Yeah, and
I like it.
they have Native American blood. Well, I handed the device to him because he wanted to hold it. The second I handed it to him, the device says twins. Right after. His skin turned to chicken. He got all excited, and I loved it because it was like another moment to prove that, these things are just they're not normal the way that they respond. And things kinda got really, like, active, and some of the investigators wanted to go into another room, and so I was like, "Okay, let me get our stuff together," and I have a Canon 7D. It shoots at, 30 frames per second. It was on 1080p, and I was shooting in RAW, and as I'm panning, because 'cause I'm grabbing stuff, I pan back over and I'm shooting the stairwell and the door frame. And with my own two eyes, I saw someone standing in the door frame. And right after that, you hear me go, "Hey, I saw you." I got excited because I'm like, "Oh, they're watching us." My device literally said, "The kids are here. The kids are playing and they're here." And I ran after her. They move so fast, it's not even funny, and I've had those kind of experiences before where these things can quickly move very, very quickly,
Well, they run on a
and
different
I
kind
went
of way sticks than we do. So yeah.
right, and I ran down that hallway. And, I didn't see anything. I told one of the other investigators, like, "I got her. I got her." I was excited. I was like, "I got her. I know she's on there. I know she's on there. I saw her in my eyes, but I'm pretty sure she's on the camera because I had the camera in my hand." So I went home and I remember that incident happened, and you could even hear me get excited and say, "Oh, I saw you, I saw you." And so I went frame by frame by frame, and within the frame, you see her standing in the door frame, and she has her hair's parted in the middle, and she has pigtails that go really long down the front of her body, and really dark circle black eyes, like no eyes at all, just really,
Almond shape.
really. I'm actually looking at it right now. No, well, no, more like just big and black, like
Okay.
just circly black, not almond in shape, not long like this, but just black. really
Well, let's
black
put
right
it
here,
on right
black and
now
black.
for our listeners and viewers.
Thank you so much. We're gonna go to the other room now, okay?
I know, you all missed it. But see, that's why you got your boy here to help you out. So let's check this out. As we rewind this back over, you notice someone kind of peeking through the banister. Right where my sister is, and quickly move away. Like dart away. Really fast. Still having trouble? It's okay. I'm gonna zoom in. Look through the banister. Look through, like, it looks like plants. And you're gonna see a little tiny little face. Really dark eyes peeking right back at you. And here's a really good slow shot of it. Really dark eyes.
What the fuck was that? You didn't hear that, George? It was like a.
Oh, I heard it, yeah.
It sounded like humans.
Thinking, well, it's got to be a wolf.
There was a kid.
It doesn't surprise me if there is.
I was so excited, but at the same time, my skin started kind of standing up because I was like she really was there. She was watching us, and that door frame. I took a Polaroid of the same door frame later. You know, this is probably days later, maybe another investigation time later. And I have to find the Polaroid. In the Polaroid, it looks like another thing standing there, but this time it does look like a very large-headed being, similar to how I was telling you what Jeff described. The story was there was a woman who, actually the same woman I was telling you that would create the dolls, the Hopi spirit dolls. She would draw. That same lady had an experience with the child, and she would play with her as a kid. And one of the times that she was playing with them, the child's let her outside, and the child ran out to the chief, the Native American chief that I was telling you about, standing there, and they walked holding hands away from where she was. And the child was no longer a child, it was a being, what it looked like.
A star child.
Star child, yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's an amazing story there. You got to experience that. You put it out on YouTube. There's a 4-part series about Mount Wilson's Ranch that you've done an investigation. So what's that, about 4 hours of footage?
Yeah, I think it was the very first time I was there. We're going to bed. We're exhausted. Darren brought his father George with him, and George was an older gentleman, and there was part of the time where George needed to sit down, and we all like got into our seats. We're like, okay, we get it. And so we all sat down, we put our devices out, and we let our devices go on. And I look over at George, and George is like this. And I'm looking at Darren, I'm like, we should I think we should cut it. I felt bad. Like I was like, George is tired. Like we could investigate tomorrow morning or something. So we decided to go to bed. And when we head towards the bungalows, we heard the most blood-curdling call that sounded animalistic and human. Till this day, when I think of it, I just can't believe I heard that. And at the last second, I pull up my phone, I hit record, and I captured it. And it's on there, you hear it. It was like kind of short, but right before that, it was doing some really long calls. later, uh, as I started, because at the time, to be honest with you, Arnie, I didn't know about Bigfoot. I did not know about Sasquatch or those type of cryptids. I was on the fence. I've never experienced anything like that. But when I heard that call, I've been to the zoo, I've been around animals, I've been to around, you know, some animals, and I've heard them do their calls. I've never heard anything like this.
Huh.
And when I researched, I think it's called the Sequoia Calls, I think they're called. It's a
Yes.
place up in like yeah, so up in like Northern California, there was this group of hunters that would go up into the sequoias, and they had a like a fort that they built, and they would take horseback up there, and then they would sleep in this like fort that they created out of lumber and wood, and it was like really really nice, kind of like old school like backpacking. I would love to do this, but don't tell the wife.
Ah,
But yeah, um, on those videotapes, that was the first time where I heard the same call,
really
and it
interesting
yeah,
because I think one of the only recordings that can't exactly be debunked. They can't be explained, but they can't be debunked either. They're authentic.
right,
They're authentic
yeah.
recordings, authentic noises that were coming from deep in the forest.
Yeah, and I think that's how it led me down there as I was researching calls. I was like trying to find authentic native Bigfoot Sasquatch calls, and that, like you said, it's one that has been reviewed by linguists and other investigators that they don't know what to make of it. There's even one that even said that it's within an octave frequency range that the human voice can't even imitate.
Oh wow!
And one even said that the language even sounds Native American Oriental, that it's almost as if you had a human being cross that land bridge over centuries ago that had picked up on that language, adapting it with Native American speech. That's where that's what it sounds like.
That's what we call an
And so
accent.
what's that?
That's what we call an accent.
In accents, yes,
Yes,
yes.
yes.
And it had exactly. It had an Oriental Native American accent that no one has ever heard before. No one can make out what the language is that those tapes are even imitating. And when I heard that, my skin just stood up. And
So we
later
got
on,
there's another similarity between the ranches.
yes. Yeah, and I didn't know that about the Strange Basin area. I didn't know about the predator being that's out there, the dire wolf that was described. And even apparently there's even a skull of the dire wolf that has been found, I believe, right? Out in the
From the
Strange
show.
Basin area.
Yep.
Okay. But I didn't know that they were also having Bigfoot experiences out there in a strange basin. Is that true? Is that they're also
Pretty
having that kind of
pretty deep and very old stories about Bigfoot. I just did a post on my Facebook or on my social medias about an article in 1889 written by the Indian agent and out of the trader out here in the Uintah Basin, and told the story of a half man, half beast creature that lives up above Rock Creek, and it's a fascinating story. So could be Bigfoot. Like, they didn't say Bigfoot that around until the 50s. So in 1889, they were telling stories about half man, half beast creatures here in the Uintah Basin. So yeah, we've got that here too.
Yeah, I started diving into David Paulides in the past, like I want to say like 10, 15 years. I met him at Phenomicon, and I bought his book. I can show you one second. So It's this book. Bigfoot, Wild Men and Giants, and it's archive articles from 1680 to 1925, and
Excellent. I didn't
it's
see.
old articles. Yeah, I
That's how
saw
I
the book
remembered
and I
it
was
right
like,
there. That's great.
yeah, I started digging into that book, and just like you're describing, you're right. There are a lot of old articles that date back, like, I mean, 1680, about and according to David Paulides, he talks about how originally they called them wild men. You
Yeah.
know, Bigfoot was a name that was kind of later, uh, modern times is how they describe them, but back in the day, it was called a wild man because a lot in one of the articles I read just recently and talked about had to do with an encounter in Nevada, and the description was it looked like a man, a very hairy man, and but it would move faster than any human could move. It attacked a bunch of horses and ripped a horse apart practically. I don't know any man that could do that. And it was wielding a club. That was one of the descriptions about it, and which makes me think about James Keenan, how
Right.
he talked about the weapons and the tools that this group of large beings, Bigfoot, whatever you want to call them, that were
Well, one
around
of
the
our
Native
most famous
Americans
pets
that they knew
up
about.
here is he's got feet as big as his chest. We call it the Bigfoot panel. And then I've got a
Yes, yeah, that
very well known, and it's really early on my Facebook post, but I posted a picture of it. But it's about a 10 foot tall, very broad shoulders, very thick neck, like head to neck or shoulders. There's no neck, and big feet on him too, and he's all painted
wow.
in red. And it, if I would call it life size, then it would be a Bigfoot because he's giant. We've got a lot and recorded.
Yeah, what really confirmed to me that what I heard was more than likely a Bigfoot was Jeff this last winter. I think it was in December or November, which that's the only thing I've never been up there during wintertime, but I'm like now wanting to go so badly because of what happened. There's a shaman cave. And so there's a site that archaeologists that Jeff has brought on has documented to be what all evidence is supporting that this was a cave that was used by the shaman when the Native Americans were living in that region. And in the winter, I think it was November, might have been early December, Jeff did find prints. Large, very large prints, and took photos of it, put stuff next to it to show the size. It looked like it had 6 toes, and
Interesting.
it looked fresh.
Shout out to James
And it
Keenan
looked
on this.
very fresh. Yeah, shout out to James Keenan. James Keenan, that was my favorite speaker out of
Mine too.
the whole thing. I didn't see Nori. I didn't see George Nori, I believe, was there as well
Oh, I had to.
on Sunday.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm seeing George Nori
Yeah,
because Art Bell's my
I
hero.
missed him. I
I'm
missed him.
modeling after very much.
Same.
Yeah, he's
Same. Yeah.
Art Bell.
I grew up to Art Bell too. Yeah. Yeah. Art Bell. That's right. Art Bell is for me, that's how a lot of this all kind of started as a kid, was listening to Art Bell, and then
Exactly.
eventually George Norrie, then George Knapp. Like I still listen to Coast every now and then if I could catch
Oh
it
yeah.
because it happens so late at night now.
And then
But
when I met
yeah,
Giorgio
that
Tsoukalos at Phenomicon, if you guys haven't heard of Phenomicon or haven't been, let me tell you, this is an amazing experience. But I got to meet Giorgio Tsoukalos, and I got to tell him he changed my life, and the guy just looked at me for a little while and just put his arms around me and gave me a big hug, and it was like an awkwardly long hug, and I just like, this is amazing. But he opened my eyes to seeing things different.
yeah,
Do I think that aliens built everything? No,
You know, that's
no.
so fun.
But he got that.
That's
What?
so funny you say that, Arnie. That's
Go
so
ahead.
funny you say that, Arnie, because I had the same experience with him.
You did
And
not.
I said the same. I have I'll send you the photo of me and him. I told him the same exact thing because for me, it was the same kind of thing where I had experienced a lot of these things that we were talking about, a couple days ago. And I would try to talk to friends and family about it, and I would be ridiculed about it. I'd be laughed at. And I told him that. I told him, you made it easier for me to talk about it with just my family. And he did the same thing, man. He
Did you
brought me
really?
into his arms and he did. He did. I think
It
he's
wasn't.
that kind of guy though. Like that's one
I
thing I
didn't think
noticed.
it was awkwardly long. It was just like it was a real hug, and that's a better way to say it. As I'm
It was
listening to you, I heard you.
genuine. It was
No, it
genuine.
wasn't awkwardly long. It was a real hug. He really like put his arms around me, and it just said thank you, and I was like, wow, this is great. Now can I have a picture, please?
It was genuine.
Very genuine.
Yeah. Yeah, it was genuine. It was very genuine. Yeah. Yeah, and
And I picked my moment
I
well.
was
I
thinking
waited for
because of
everybody died listening to somebody else talk, and it was just me and him, and it was a neat experience. Thank you,
well,
Phenomicon, and to our tourism, the Uintah County Tourism, for putting that on and
yeah, they
making
yeah,
it so amazing. Awesome.
yeah,
So you came
absolutely.
up here.
Yeah, absolutely.
You've spent all this time, done all these investigations down there at the Mount Wilson's Ranch, and then you come up here. You're a Phenomicon. You're meeting all of us. We meet and we hit it off really well. We spent a lot of time talking in the halls. But then you got to go to Space Wolf Research. What? Because we're talking about the similarities, and because really this is Strange Basin. We're talking about this. It's a local show about what's going on here, but this all ties in so well. My big question to you is: when you walked onto the Space Wolf Research property, got showed around, because feelings to me is evidence. Sure, the REM pods are flashing and at the right time, and your app is saying the words that are coherent with the situation. Those are all really good evidences, but to me, the best evidence is how did you feel? Was the feeling that you had, was that similar to the Mount Wilson's?
No, different.
No.
So a little bit different. At Strange Basin at Space Wolf Research, I felt like the eyes were on me. I felt like every move I made was being monitored by just everything. I don't want to say it was negative, but it was like very alert and aware. It felt as though this was very respectful land that if I didn't tread lightly, it could go very south very fast. There were times where it did feel like the ranch wanted me to get off. Like I kind of, okay, you've been here long enough. It's time to go. And like I said, I have a very strong faith system. I was doing prayers the entire time in my head. I always wear a rosary everywhere I go. I was like clenching it in moments. Like it was a very and it was my first time, so maybe that could be tying into it, but I really felt like, okay, like this is way above what I'm ready for, and maybe I might have overstepped a little bit. I talked about,
You
whistling.
don't go to the big
That's
league.
something I won't do ever again.
You go to pitch in the major.
I've learned. Yeah, I pretty much everything like I learned. It was definitely a big learning experience. It was a lot of it had to do with be respectful. Like when you're out there, be very, very, very respectful. I was getting the impression that I need to be very respectful. and that, other investigations, it's okay to play around, but this is not a location that you want to do that. And I did capture things on video, UAP stuff. And so I definitely felt like there were eyes watching us while we were there, making sure that we knew the parameters that we needed to stay within. If I were to ever go back there, which I would love to, so I have talked to Jeff about it, I would have a totally different way of approaching the ranch, definitely bringing gifts, definitely trying to bring something back to that area that maybe is lost, that needs to come back.
I'd be really interesting if you'd brought something from Mount Wilson's and left it there. That'd be kind of an interesting experiment there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that would be. I concur on that one. That would be something definitely that probably should be done, especially how we talked about the Native American connection. How they were both in those areas, and there's a lot of stuff that happened during that period that, our ancestors that made this country that it is today, unfortunately, did a lot of bad things to them. And it would be, in my heart, beneficial for us to give back to that land and to that area, and try to be very respectful, especially
Very much.
the
And
next time I walk out there.
a lot of my intentions with this show is to own our history and honor our history by owning it, and tell the truth even when it's uncomfortable. And you know it's what I'm doing. And I think it's collaborations like this and the open talk and giving it to the world the way we're doing it will begin to make that awareness first, and consciousness of it, and then complete respect for our history, and as close to the reality of our history as we can grasp, and again, very importantly, own it for what it is, even
Yeah.
when it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. The When I started researching the whole ghost dance with the Native Americans, and it's interesting because even just recently, trying to remember the convers oh, this actually happened at Mount Wilson's Ranch. They were talking about the ghost dance, and the person telling the story, in my opinion, was not correct about his idea that the ghost dance was actually how the Native Americans were banding together to start a revolt, and it was playing more into the hysteria that led into that massacre that happened into South Dakota. And I don't believe that. I believe that the original intent of the ghost dance was actually trying to quiet down the tribes, and tried to make them understand that fighting against the oppression that was happening to them is not going to end well, and that if they were to just come together and just live back on their old ways, that eventually the the settlers would probably kill each other off, and that would have been more the peaceful, respectful approach that they were trying to carry out. Unfortunately, the hysteria that was caused by the more collections of ghost dance that were happening, and the growth of it, led to that massacre that happened, unfortunately.
Wow. Wow. Well, I want to give a really big shout out to Jeff.
Yep.
What an amazing thing he's doing over there.
Jeff
And
McBurney, man. Yep.
what's his last name again?
McBurney.
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 I look forward to speaking with him and meeting him, but huge appreciation for what he's doing, and keeping that research and the openness to what our possibilities could be and what might be really going on in these hot spots and these encounters that we keep having, and tying it into the history and the folklore that I love so much. Also, a huge shout to Ryan Burns, who owns the Space Wolf Research.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely.
He
Thank
is
you, Ryan Burns. Yep.
doing work over there.
Absolutely.
Open and free to share that with anybody and everybody. He doesn't have armed guards and security that keep you out. He's He very much keeps an eye on it, but people like us are welcome, and
Yeah,
he believes very much that it is for all of us. And he's a good person. He's been on the show, and I count him as a friend of mine as well. So I'm so grateful to him for sharing and giving you the experience that you had there, making this show possible to be able to tie these things together and find out that this isn't super just unique and yes, the strange basin is evolving and growing and the history is so amazing. And I don't have to leave 20 minutes away from my house to go find something new, cool, and strange. I feel very fortunate and lucky. And on that note, I'm lucky to know people like you and Ryan and
same.
by proxy now Jeff, and I'd love to speak with him as well. Just love what we're doing. And I thank you for you doing what you're doing.
Thanks, Arnie. Yeah, and for me, Ryan Burns, huge shout out and thank you because like I didn't know Ryan Burns. All I knew Jeff, and I just met Jeff over in Phenomicon, and in that short little period for Ryan to allow us onto that ranch was just a huge blessing. It just shows where his heart is. Where he's somebody who is trying to understand this phenomenon, but is also open to allow people respectfully that could come onto the ranch and have an experience as well. Yeah, huge shout out to Ryan and Jeff for allowing that to even happen. And you, Arnie, man, you too, buddy. Like you
Ah,
with the Strange Basin and talking about these topics and adventures that you're going on. Like I know we can't really talk too much about it, but that's awesome for you that you're doing what you're
ah.
doing and you're carrying the torch, man. You really are. You are it's I think Art Bell and George Knapp and George Norrie and people like that have been talking about this for years. This is exactly what they wanted. They
And to
wanted
have this
more.
platform where we can just put it out there and anybody across the whole world can click on it and see what Arnie Gray's talking about in Vernal, Utah.
that- That's right.
It's
That's
what
right.
a cool thing, man. And there's a responsibility goes with that too. And that's why I try to keep it real and as factual as I can and talk about these things that are paranormal or not normal and just treat it like what if and how could it be and how can we find out more and
Yeah.
it's talking to people like you.
Yeah. Thanks, Arnie. Honestly, it's nice meeting for me. Like I said, as a kid, it was very lonely. Um, because I couldn't talk to anybody about this as a kid. And I always dreamed of finding a community of people that I would feel comfortable enough to open up and talk about this kind of stuff. It's people like you that like I said are carrying this torch forward and giving more and more people like us that do experience these things and are willing to put ourselves out there and then put it out there online for people to see us for themselves. There's a lot of people that won't barely go out of their state, let alone their city. And so for us to be able to go to these locations and videotape it and put it online, we're their eyes for them. And so
And
it
I
is
get a
our
lot of messages and
responsibility.
I get a lot of stories and videos that they say please don't do anything with it. I don't want to be recognized. I don't want to know, but I just wanted
I'm
you to
sure.
know that this is happening. I cannot believe the amount of UAPs flying over the Uintah Basin right now. I am almost daily getting videos.
Oh, wow.
It's I don't know what's kicked it in gear, but wow. And we're talking a lot of them and
Wow.
just hanging out and being cool, just flashing coming in. Yeah, it's kicking up, and I don't know. Maybe it's that they're putting those drilling rigs on the Skinwalker Ranch. Who knows?
Yeah, I almost feel like it might even be that thing that, just circled around our sun that long
Ooh.
ago that, NASA, has yet to release images of. I
Well,
think
we
it's
want the truth,
right. Yeah,
and we're getting like-minded people in office, and so vote well, everybody, please. Like,
absolutely. Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
love it.
and for me, there's one politician that and I know how people feel about politicians, but there's one that I feel very strong about. It's Luna. Republican Luna. She has someone she wrote a letter to NASA demanding images to be released. She was the House Speaker for the last UAP hearing that just happened, I believe in October. And she works with Tim Burchett, the other Republican who she went down to a base, I think in Florida because they had a UAP occurrence that happened over there, and one of the airmen came forward as a whistleblower, and she went down to the base, went straight to the commander, and the commander literally walked out and went on leave. I'd never heard that. I was in the military. I didn't even know commanders could just do that. That like if you had a politicians coming to your gates, asking for information, that you could just up and walk and go on leave. But she's someone who's like really pushing it, and for us, she's really trying to get the truth out there, just like we're saying, and
Yeah.
that's one I absolutely support. Absolutely.
Well, we saw marijuana go legal. Now let's have disclosure. Let's say, things I didn't think would ever happen in my life. So
It's
let's
gonna
have it.
happen.
It's going to happen.
It's gonna happen. I feel like
Legalize it.
yeah, and there's a film. It's called Age of Disclosure.
Wow.
It's gonna be dropping on Netflix, I just heard. And
No,
so
I thought I'd seen it. No,
it's
this is the one they were talking about at Phenomenon coming up, huh?
yes, this is the one. I feel like all the skeptics, all the non-knowers, they're not going to be able to get away from this one because there's politicians, ex-government, telling you flat out, yes, this is real. This has been happening for a very long time, and it seems as though now is the time for us to know. I don't know what turned the table, but
I think it's Gen X, man. That's what we're doing.
yeah, I think so too.
Right on. Well, it's time for your shameless plugs, man. Where do we find you? How do we watch you? How do we get to know you? How do we
So
hear you?
yeah, I'm easy to find. It's called Eerie Expedition. I can show you. This is what the logo looks like on the YouTube channel. This is actually the sweaters that I was giving out. It comes with the Polaroid and a sticker. That's my only personal little touch that I try to. Every Polaroid is from an investigation, so you literally have a part of the investigation with you.
Oh, sweet.
Um, it's on Facebook. By my left, my wife's leaving. She's going out with her father.
Yeah.
Eerie Expedition on Facebook, on YouTube. I have a TikTok called Eerie Expedition. It's also another one called The Host of Eerie Expedition, where I do more of my personal stories from the investigations. They're on there as well. I go by Geo Baja on my Facebook and my Instagram. I go by Geo Baja. My Geo Baja is my old rocker name. I used
Oh,
to
okay.
be a musician too. I was a singer, frontman, and a guitarist. I had a short little time up in Alaska. We used to play. I had a band called Have At You, and Have At You back in the day meant F you. And so we just ran with it. It was a punk band. And then I had a band here in Vegas for a short time that the name kind of escapes me because it was a short time. And that's where Geo Baja comes from. That was just a name that I just kind of carried with myself, mainly because as a kid, we would go to Baja, California all the time. And Geo, my name is Giovanni, but everyone just calls me Geo. So I just kind of put
Yeah.
them together in Geo Baja. But that's where you can find me.
Cool. Cool. And I'll have links in the description below. Wow, I just said something YouTube.
Like, comment, subscribe.
No, I will never, ever say that. If those words ever come out of my mouth, you may kick me in the crotch.
I'm gonna mark it just when I hear it.
And that goes for everybody. Like, nope, not gonna happen.
And everyone, please, man, definitely, you guys got to watch Strange Basin. Arnie's putting on like some of the best information you can find online right now. And eventually, you're gonna see more of Arnie, I'm sure.
Yep.
on different networks. So we won't talk about that any more than that.
Yeah, it's out there a little bit, but I've had some great experiences, guys. Stay tuned.
I bet. I can't wait to hear them, Arnie.
Well, thank you, Geo. You have a great night, and thanks for muddling through our first video broadcast.
It was fun, man. Thanks, Arnie, for having me. It was a pleasure.
Good night.
Good night, buddy.